All right, I'm back. Just gonna do a quick stream.
Motion Array Holiday Sale is happening right now. For a limited time only, save 15% on the annual subscription for video creators. Enjoy.
Oh my god! What the f? Bro, he did not put that in there! Anyway, this is the Toyota War. How this truck took down an army.
This is a Soviet T-55 main battle tank. A 40-ton, hulking, crawling mass of pure violence.
Oh god.
In operation since 1958, the T-55 battle tank is designed to be efficient, easy to use,
Oh god, fucking tankies are gonna nut so hard.
and capable of delivering severe devastation to its enemies, quickly and without mercy. A veteran of over 20 wars and still deployed today in over 50 countries, the T-55 has proven to its enemies across the globe that it is an effective machine of combat. Swiveling atop the T-55's chassis is a 100mm cannon, capable of firing accurately
I don't
at
feel
12
like
kilometers per hour.
watching
Whether it is
this.
standing still, hidden in the shadows, or bounding over yet to be
When you and President Nixon conceived of the bombing of Cambodia, you did it in order to interdict.
Come on, we have been bombing with drones and all kinds of weapons. Every guerrilla unit that we were opposing. It's been the same in every administration of either party.
The consequences.
Little Jew boy, fucking Nixon called him that. What the fuck? That's
It's a
hilarious.
program you're doing because I'm going to be 100 years old.
Right.
And you're picking a topic of something that happened 60 years ago. You have to know that it was a necessary step. Now the younger generation feels that if they can raise their emotions, they don't have to think. If they think, they won't ask that question.
On March 18, 1969, during the Vietnam War, the U.S. secretly began what would become a long and relentless bombing campaign in neighboring Cambodia. Had there been an international criminal tribunal for Cambodia, prosecutors would have had a field day with U.S. President Richard Nixon and his national security advisor and later Secretary of State, Henry Kissinger. Establishing genocidal intent with these two would be a cakewalk. On December 9, 1970, Nixon would phone Kissinger to discuss the ongoing bombing of Cambodia. You see, Operation Menu, as it was called, was only an escalation of the bombing. Up to this point, close to 500,000 tons of bombs had already been dropped on Cambodia. 5 minutes after getting off of the call, Kissinger called General Alexander Haig to relay the new
Okay,
orders
well,
from the
I'm
president.
gonna try to take.
He wants a massive bombing campaign in Cambodia. He doesn't want to hear anything. It's an order. It's to be done. Anything that flies on anything that moves. You got that?
South Africa.
On December 29, 2023, Henry Alfred Kissinger died in his home in Kent, Connecticut, at the age of 100. His death has been met with an outpouring of sympathy and affection from major American news outlets, which may be even more troubling than his legacy. The Washington Post, along with a lengthy obituary, published a short piece on his, quote, carpet bombing of Cambodia. In it, the authors write, Ben Kiernan, a historian at Yale University and a leading scholar of the U.S. legacy in Cambodia, has estimated that around 500,000 tons of U.S. bombs were dropped on Cambodia.
Oh, rookie
Interestingly enough,
move.
this figure is from a paper that Kiernan wrote in 1989 called The American Bombardment of Kampuchea, where he cites a figure of 540,000 tons. However, either unbeknownst to the editorial staff at the Washington Post or insidiously omitted, Ben Kiernan actually wrote another, lesser-known article published in the Canadian Walrus magazine, in collaboration with Owen Taylor at the University of Oxford. This article was reporting that in 2000, upon a state visit to Vietnam, President Bill Clinton announced that he would release extensive Air Force data on all American bombings during the Vietnam War from the years 1964 to 1975. The still incomplete database reveals that from October 4th, 1965 to August 15th, 1973, the United States dropped far more ordnance on Cambodia than was previously believed. 2,756,941 tons worth. To put 2,756,941 tons into perspective, the Allies dropped just over 2 million tons of bombs during all of World War II. Cambodia may be the most heavily bombed country in history. Moreover, the two announced, the data released by Clinton shows the total payload dropped during these years to be nearly 5 times greater.
Is this
than the generally
progressive
accepted
or
figure.
fixed? It's fixed.
Nick Turse, author of Kill Anything That Moves, The Real American War in Vietnam, has clearly been prepared to write Kissinger's obit for years. Turse can appropriately be called America's leading expert, if not a foremost expert worldwide, on American war crimes during the Vietnam War. His book is probably the only one of its kind, solely dedicated to chronologizing these crimes in detail. Kissinger helped to prolong the Vietnam War and expand the conflict into neutral Cambodia, facilitated genocides in Cambodia, East Timor, and Bangladesh, accelerated civil wars in Southern Africa, and supported coups and death squads throughout Latin America. He had the blood of at least 3 million people on his hands, according to his biographer Greg Grandin. He quotes Reed Brody, who worked on the Pinochet case in the UK. Few people have had a hand in as much death and destruction, as much human suffering in so many places around the world as Henry Kissinger. Kissinger was born in Germany, born in the Bavarian town of Fürth in 1923. He was actually born Heinz. At 15, his family escaped the Holocaust, although at least 13 of their relatives would perish in concentration camps. In the US, he became Henry. Henry was withdrawn and bookish. In 1943, he was drafted into the army and went on to lead raids in Gestapo houses, earning himself a Bronze Star. He attended Harvard University, where he wrote a lengthy doctoral dissertation called
Not
The
what
War
I
of the
wanted.
Sword, about European diplomacy following the fall of Napoleon. From Harvard, he was placed in an elite study group at the Council on Foreign Relations studying nuclear policy. His work, Nuclear Weapons and Foreign Policy, gave him cachet at Harvard and in foreign policy circles. He naturally became a consultant to the Kennedy and later the Johnson administrations. In 1968, he was offered a job in the Nixon administration. To his admirers, he was the brilliant architect of Pax Americana, the chess grandmaster. To his detractors, and even some friends and former employees, he was vain, conspiratorial, arrogant, and short-tempered. A man capable of praising a top aide as indispensable while ordering the FBI to illegally tap his home phones to see if he was leaking to the press. He was lauded for foreign policy successes. As the impresario of Nixon's historic opening to China, and as the theoretician of détente with the Soviet Union, Dr. Kissinger earned much of the credit for seismic policy shifts that redirected the course of world affairs. With his German accent, incisive wit, owlish looks, and zest for socializing in Hollywood and dating movie stars, he was instantly recognized all over the world, in stark contrast to most of his understated predecessors.
Whoa.
Foreign policy expert Alfred W. McCoy of the University of Wisconsin-Madison has long been unimpressed by his record, writing in 2017, Henry Kissinger was as inept as he was ruthless.
Wait, what
Extending
was
the
this?
Vietnam War by 7 bloody years to mask his W. McCoy of the University of Wisconsin-Madison has long been unimpressed by his record, writing in 2017, long been
What's that
unimpressed by
book?
his record, writing in 2017, Henry Kissinger was as inept as he was ruthless. Extending the Vietnam War by 7 bloody years to mask his diplomatic failure, turning East Timor over to Indonesia for decades.
Damn,
of
this
slaughter
guy's
and
so.
political independence, cratering
He got
US
shit
credibility
on
in
right
Latin
there.
America by backing a murderous military dictatorship in Chile, and mismanaging Moscow in ways that helped extend the Cold War by 15 years. Kissinger's career, as international law specialist Richard Falk observed, has been marked by his extraordinary capacity to be repeatedly wrong about almost every major foreign policy decision made by the U.S. government over the course of the last half-century. It appears Kissinger's record in Bangladesh was too grave for the New York Times to ignore, as the Washington Post did. Perhaps the most egregious episode came in the signals to Pakistan that it was free to deal with Bengalis in East Pakistan as it saw fit. Indeed, when Pakistan's US-backed military was waging a genocidal war in East Pakistan, now Bangladesh, in 1971, he and Nixon not only ignored pleas from the American consulate in East Pakistan to stop the massacre, but they approved weapon shipments to Pakistan, including the apparent illegal transfer of 10 fighter bombers from Jordan. The human cost was horrific. At least 300,000 people were killed in East Pakistan, and 10 million refugees were driven into India. They also add East Timor to his list of dastardly deeds, a country the Washington Post did not even name a single time. He and President Ford approved Indonesia's invasion of East Timor in December 1975, leading to a disastrous 24-year occupation by a US-backed military. Declassified documents released in 2001 by the National Security Archive indicate that Ford and Mr. Kissinger knew of the invasion plans months in advance and were aware that the use of American arms would violate US law. "I know what the law is," he said. They reported that more than 100,000 East Timorese were killed or starved to death. What they don't say is that that is a conservative estimate, and the number could be as high as 180,000, or up to a quarter of the entire population. They also don't mention that, according to the UN's Truth Commission set up after the Indonesian withdrawal, that mass starvation was used as a weapon of war. Of course, one has to mention the notorious Operation Condor, unmentioned by the New York Times or the Washington Post, but like I said, Nick Turse was prepared. "You did a great service to the West in overthrowing Allende," Kissinger later told General Augusto Pinochet, the leader of the military junta that went on to kill thousands of Chileans. In Argentina, Kissinger gave another green light. this time to a terror campaign of torture, forced disappearances, and murder by a military junta that overthrew President Isabel Perón. During a June 1976 meeting, Kissinger told the junta's foreign minister, "If there are things that have to be done, you should do them quickly." The so-called dirty war that followed would claim the lives of an estimated 30,000 Argentine civilians. Terse reminds us that Kissinger stoked a war in Angola and prolonged apartheid in South Africa. In the Middle East, he sold out the Kurds in Iraq. After Washington, Kissinger became wealthy through founding a consulting firm, Kissinger Associates. Terse writes, the firm leveraged Kissinger's reputation and contacts to help huge multinational corporations, banks, and financial institutions, including American Express, Anheuser-Busch, Coca-Cola, Heinz, Fiat, Volvo, Ericsson, and Daewoo, broker deals with governments. The New York Times put it like so. When Disney sought to navigate the Chinese leadership to build a $5.5 billion park in Shanghai, Mr. Kissinger got the call. Kissinger also continued to write policy recommendations and articles, and advised every single president from Nixon onwards. Indeed, current Secretary of State Anthony Blinken said upon Kissinger's death that he had sought counsel from the former diplomatic chief many times, including most recently about a month ago. Those who may be dismayed at how long Kissinger was able to live may have some solace in the fact that a mind that could unleash such hideous man-made horrors onto untold millions of people throughout the world, and do so without hesitation or apology, will never speak or advise another sitting U.S. official for the rest of time. And we can all breathe a deep sigh of relief for that.
What is a woman?
The American dream is real.
So you can stand up for what you believe.
The world is ready. With your future at your fingertips, it's time for you to take the reins. Study for a degree in animation, entertainment business, film, graphic design, media communications, writing for film and TV.
Welcome back to the comment section. I'm Brett Cooper. There is a new video from TikTok that has now gone viral over on Twitter, and it's a video of a girl expressing her dating grievances that have been picked up by a specific niche of Twitter and have thousands of men weighing in. We're gonna break down this video and see what all the fuss is about, but before we do, make sure that you like this video, subscribe to the channel if you've not already, and ring that notification bell so that you never miss a comment section or off a blog episode. All right, so this is the original video. It's from a girl named Abigail, and she posted it on TikTok, but here's the repost that went viral on Twitter. We'll watch this first.
I just came to the realization why I'm single.
Why?
Every guy that I'm like, oh yeah, he's attractive. Okay, this is not supposed to be offensive.
Oh, you cunt.
Their wives, and they just look like so, like, you know, like, not like this. Pretend my tattoos are gone. Dude, I look crazy. Like, that's why guys don't want to wife me up. Or maybe it's because all of them see me eat sushi after I get out of the grocery store in my car with my bare fingers and drink sweet tea. I thought these men were like, you know, big, strong, tough girls.
Those are the lies of feminism. That's what feminism is, not what the men told you. I don't want to laugh because obviously she's very, like, she genuinely seems upset about it, but no, that's not what they wanted. It's what miserable, sad, lonely women thought men would want.
I feel like all of them are like super girly, and all these guys are like, yeah, that's my girl. That's just like housewife stuff. And I'm over here like, I own my own business. I'm covered in tattoos. I'm a little spazzy, but that's okay. I don't think any guy's gonna wife me up because I can't take me seriously. And I just realized that.
Now, there were a lot of people making fun of her online, but I didn't watch that video and think that this was some funny, laughing matter. Like, she genuinely is coming to this conclusion while filming this video. She genuinely seems like she wants to get married, like she wants to be wifed up. She wasn't talking about dating or hooking up with her, and obviously, that's not happening. So I empathize with her. A lot of people were making fun of her, though. The original repost caption read, another disagreeable boss girl. I don't think she's disagreeable at all. Like, she did not come off like that at all. Comes to the realization that men don't want women with septum piercings, muscles, and tattoos. We need to stop lying to women and tell them to preserve their feminine beauty and stop acting so masculine. Now, obviously, this sparked a fiery conversation in the comments, and many men did not hold back. One guy said, you're right, men don't take you seriously. No good man wants a tatted up, pierced, loudmouth, masculine female for a wife. She looks like a future divorce. Men want femininity and submissiveness, as she has discovered. She should reverse course while she still can. Another person said, she's gorgeous and I like her personality too. I'm glad somebody was nice to her. And I certainly don't mind some muscle. It's just that she takes care of her body. Another positive thing. But the piercings and tattoos offer to me a warning sign more times than not. Another person said, women love masculine men. That's why they chase only the highest tier of them. Men love feminine women, but it's controversial now. Many girls pushing their 30s are learning the hard way, just like her. Kitchen, better than modern feminism. The TikTok comments were generally the same, but obviously with a little less nuance. It's funny now because I used to say that Twitter had no nuance, but since Elon freed the bird, there's actually some good discourse on there. But anyway, TikTok, not the place for it. Somebody commented and said, I for one want a woman who is simply nice to me. Most women fail at that pretty quick. You seem sweet, and that is a big green flag. Very, very true. I don't think she looks disagreeable at all. My heart went out to her. She seems very, very nice. Maybe she was led astray by what people told her that men wanted, but she does not look like a disagreeable boss bitch or whatever that first guy called her. Another person said, woman with pin video entitled I'm a 6-foot-tall bodybuilder with temper problems discovers that she is a 6-foot-tall bodybuilder with temper problems. Another person said, hey, don't sweat it. I'm sure that there's plenty of guys who'd wife you up in an instant. I mean, probably not me, but somebody for sure. I think that was the worst comment because it was so positive. He was like, you seem really nice, but still, yeah, you're right, not my type. Another person said, she's literally so pretty. I'm confused. Well, you're a girl and you have been fed the lies of feminism. The men are telling you how to not be confused. It really isn't that confusing, unlike when you're browsing in incognito mode and then you realize that nothing you're doing is actually private. Because if you've ever read the fine print when you start browsing in incognito mode, it literally says your activity might have energy. Embrace your feminine aura or side and you will be wiped up. .com/Cooper and you will get an extra 3 months free. Again, that's expressvpn.com/Cooper. And I'd say that is pretty straightforward. Kind of like men's response to this girl. Last comment, you're cute, but tough girls tend to be more their masculine energy. Embrace your feminine aura or side and you will be wiped up. I don't even really care about her tattoos and piercings because they do not determine somebody's morals and their values, especially if they have changed after the fact. Like, I mean, come on, like Kat Von D is trending right now and is a perfect example for how, like, she is literally a famous tattoo artist. She is pierced all over. She just came to Christianity. She's totally changing her life. She just did an episode of Allie Beth Stuckey's podcast. Like, she's fantastic. That does not determine a person's value. But in our current culture, it can hinder a first impression with some guys, so I do understand.
Love the kind of women that can kick my ass.
But I am more interested in the way that this girl carries herself and the energy that she puts out into the world, which is obviously more masculine. And now she's realizing that a lot of men do not prefer that. Here's a TikTok stitch of her original video that gives some insight into how men respond to this.
She's saying that most men have very feminine wives. They don't go after tattooed buff girls. That's exactly what I was saying yesterday. If you're a woman and you make yourself more masculine, then fewer men will prefer it. And there's nothing wrong with it. I think she looks great. And I'm not saying that you have to conform to the world, but you do have to conform to reality. If you want people to like you, then you have to be what they like. And if you want to be something else, then you're going to get the people who like whatever that is. I guess people with tattoos like other people with tattoos. So at least you know who you're looking for, or who's looking for you.
I love the scientific evidence in this video. The graphs really did it for me.
Fucking weird.
But I think an important point in here is that she is obviously not really interested in the men that maybe she would be attracting with those piercings and those tattoos and being more masculine. Like, a masculine woman is going to attract a more feminine man because you want to have your counterpart. She obviously is looking for somebody that is a bit more masculine if those men have very, very feminine traditional wives. She also, I hear her southern accent, there is going to be a certain demographic in the South, if that is where she is still living. Those men have certain tastes. It all makes sense, but to put it simply, and maybe in some marketing terms, she needs to know her target audience. Somebody commented under that one and said, septum piercing equals red flag. I've never met a girl with a septum piercing that was mentally stable. Another person said, never met a tattooed girl that has it together. That guy responded, though, and said, I have met one. I have met them as well. So again, I do not think the tattoos or piercings, define you. I do think it's more about the way that you carry yourself. And this conversation has been bubbling on Reddit for years. One girl posted this in r/AskMenAdvice and asked, in general, do men prefer feminine women? And this was the general consensus. One person said, honestly, the only type of women I don't like are the ones who try way too hard not to be feminine at all. That's not you. It would be a woman who is like you but goes out of her way to deny being a woman at all. That's just my thing. I prefer a woman who realizes that she is one and doesn't deny it. She could be someone like you, someone who's more feminine, or somebody who's a bodybuilder. I think that's true for most guys, as is the reverse for women. Like with my girlfriend, she sees me as manly because of my confidence in certain areas and my always being there to help her. Even if I'm not traditionally masculine, I am still a man in her eyes kind of thing. Long response, but so long as you don't try to act like you aren't a woman at all, you should, in theory, be fine. Now, I've told this story before, but this whole discussion reminds me of it. When I was in high school, I tried to be everything but feminine. I hated being a woman. I hated what came with it. I was always more of a tomboy, but as I got older and I went through puberty and I saw how sexualized the world was, I started having men look at me in leering ways. I didn't really like that. I just completely revolted against it and I kind of went inward. And my only solution to that was just to become more masculine. Like, I wore ugly, dark, sad clothes that completely covered up my body. I refused to care about how I looked, and that was like a badge of honor for me. I only hung out with guys. I looked down on the girls that I knew. I would man spread every single time that I sat down. Like, I was hyper independent and trying to be incredibly masculine. And it was because I wanted to protect myself and because the only women that I was exposed to and really seeing in the world were these vapid Hollywood party types whose body and their sex appeal was their only personality trait, and I hated that, and I did not want to be that. And I would prefer to be super masculine and like androgynous than be that, because that looked so bad and I hated everything that embodied. My mom and I were driving somewhere in the Hollywood Hills. I must have been going to an audition or something like that. And she looked over at me and I was like slouched in my huge Doc Martens, which I still have, by the way, so I haven't completely changed. And she looked at me and she basically said, like, you can be a strong woman and still be feminine. Being feminine does not mean that you lose your independence and the things that make you. Like, you don't have to stop shooting guns with your brothers. You don't have to stop snowboarding. You don't have to stop rock climbing, but maybe lighten up a bit. Try to wear a dress sometimes. It was the mom equivalent of men telling women to smile because they look prettier when they smile, and that was the thing that always pissed off 2016 feminists. But it was such a light bulb moment for me. My mom and I still talk about that conversation years later. And we've also joked about how maybe she pushed me a little too far in the girl boss, empowerment, anti-princess, anti-girly girl direction. But I mean, who can blame her? She had 3 boys before she had me. I don't think she would have known what to do with a girly girl princess, so I think that was the solution. It balanced out for me, but that was a huge light bulb moment. But back to the conversation, back to femininity. What's funny to me is the fact that men preferring this is shocking to anyone. Like, it makes sense on every single level. Like, this article says, why feminine energy is kryptonite for men. And this writer wrote, this topic has always intrigued me. Men tend to like soft feminine women, and women are often drawn to a bit more rough alpha male typed man. This goes way back to prehistoric times and has a lot to do with procreation. Biology. Shocking, isn't it?
That's right. I was right.
This yin and yang attraction is somewhat ingrained in us through biology. The times may have changed, but our biology has yet to catch up. Women are getting more and more masculine in today's society, mainly American society. Many other countries still adhere to traditional gender roles. The balance has been thrown off a bit by the vast changes in our society and a feminist movement, which is ironically anything but feminine, but rather idolizing an I can do it all myself mentality. I'm not knocking feminists, that's not what the article is about, but ladies, you can't argue with science. Research has shown over and over again, feminine attracts masculine. And if you want that hotshot alpha man in your life, you need to keep that in mind. Mainly American society. Many other countries still adhere to traditional gender roles, like she wrote before. And the reverse of what she's saying is also true, because those more traditionally feminine women are going to attract those alpha types because those are women that they can protect. I'm not not saying that she needs to be blonde, dressed in ballet, cottagecore, whatever, but the softer, feminine energy that allows him to lead and be the alpha protector that he wants to be. Because, newsflash, men do want to be masculine. They want to lean into their masculinity because that is biological, not reject it just to be a better fit for their partner. And when women lean into their femininity, men can easily naturally lean into their masculinity. It's the yin and yang effect, like that woman wrote. Now, in our modern era, so many women have developed more masculine traits thanks to feminism, which is understandably a turnoff to more traditional men, which is what the woman in that video seems to be seeking. And perhaps it is a protection mechanism for women, like it was for me, or it's just modern feminism telling them that they are better off as some independent, empowered women who don't need no man. But inevitably, what happens is one day when they finally decide that they want to settle down, like the girl on TikTok, they struggle to find a man to meet that biological desire. It's a vicious cycle that has been happening for years now. One, though, that can be broken by accepting your biological desires rather than rejecting it. And I'm not saying that this girl needs to go have all of her tattoos lasered off and change everything about her personality and stop working out, because a lot of men really like girls who go to the gym. I'm just saying it's important to be intentional with how you are presenting yourself so that you can attract the man that you want to attract. And it's really incredible that she has had this realization, and I don't think it's too late for her whatsoever. Lean into your femininity, and like my mom told me, do not view it as a weakness, because it absolutely does not have to be.
All right, what did I get here? Okay, at least I'll get...
Learn something new. If you have not already, like this video, subscribe to the channel, and of course, ring that notification bell so that you never miss a comment section episode.
At least I'll get,
This is hard because our brains have been poisoned about what autism means, okay? Now careful, because on the internet, autism means that you probably don't shower that much, so girls stay away from you, so you blame some self-diagnosed neurodivergency on why nobody likes you, okay? That's like what autism means on the internet. But autism in real life, remember, it's ASD, it's autism spectrum disorder. There's a whole spectrum of people that can be autistic. And on the lower end of that spectrum, you have people that need caretakers for their entire life. You have people that will become violent, become unhinged, that need adult, male, strong people to like keep them under control, right? This is one of the biggest like emotional triggers that I have as a parent, is I hate the idea that I could not be with him due to his age, his height, and in over and over and over and over and over again.
Go yourself.
This is going to be a controversial take, but I'm sorry. A behavior plan is put in place for this reason. You do not take away an autistic person's possessions without warning or reading how to do so. If you're working with autistic children, you have to fully IEP so this doesn't happen. If this child was just violent, then he simply shouldn't have been in a public school setting, so that's failure on the system. Many steps are missed for this child acted violently. Oh, Am I coming out with the parent take right now? Assuming this child did have like severe autism or whatever, this tweet is 1 billion% correct. Assuming that the child, especially if the child was on an IEP, and if the child has like crazy autism or whatever, yeah, then this would absolutely be the fault of the school for not having whatever they needed in place to deal appropriately with this child. Child is a big child, Jesus. But the mother explains the situation in the video. Hold on.
Nobody. I am so sorry for what my son did, and no.
Oh, the optics. God damn it. Sorry. Okay. Christ. Sorry. Let's go.
But nobody should ever have to go through that. But at the same time, please consider that my son has had a hard life, and he's gone through so much trauma in his life. He has autism. Please show mercy to him. It's devastating.
This is hard because our brains have been poisoned about what autism means, okay? Now careful, because on the internet, autism means that you probably don't shower that much, so girls stay away from you, so you blame some self-diagnosed neurodivergency on why nobody likes you, okay? That's like what autism means on the internet. But autism in real life, remember, it's ASD, it's autism spectrum disorder. There's a whole spectrum of people that can be autistic. And on the lower end of that spectrum, you have people that need caretakers for their entire life, okay? You have people that will become violent, become unhinged, that need adult, male, strong people to like keep them under control, right? People that are on the spectrum, on the real spectrum, not the Twitter one, okay? They run the gamut in terms of like how violent they can be. So when she says my son is autistic, now I don't know 100%, I don't know her story, okay? I'm sorry, what did Hassan say? I'm being confidently, confident, whatever the fuck Hassan said to insult me. I'm being that, yeah. But assuming he has like an actual, like a severe, like low functioning autistic person, this is, yeah.
That my heart is breaking. I'm terrified for my child. I feel like if he gets sentenced to prison, it's a death sentence for him. He's scared. And to have your child call and cry and say, I don't want to die, it's awful. And I don't understand why. That in his IEP, it was stated that in the intensive behavior group home that he was living in, if they ever...
So in schools, so if he had an IEP, that means that they were already going through the process. So IEP is individualized education plan. Now, IEP is when you have a child with special needs, or I think it's just special needs in general. Usually there are specific or unique ways that a school will deal with that child. There's like a plan to monitor the behavior and to track year through year, or they might go to a totally different, like a special school for it. So if he has an IEP, then he's probably already documented or registered. He has like a special way of associating with them, engaging with them, and everything, yeah.
Had to remove it as a consequence. They called in the crisis team. And the original IEP called for a token economy, or so he could, to motivate him to do his work, he could earn tokens to then go to like a snack closet. This year, he had a new teacher who, it's not Joan. Joan was not his teacher. She's a para. He had a new teacher who, it was her first year teaching, and I don't know if she didn't understand the IEP, if she didn't read it, but she approached the group home and asked the group home to send it in.
Listen, for anybody who watches that video, it's hard for them to get past it, and I can understand.
Fuck
They'd be
this
devastated
person, bro.
for Joan Nadich, the victim in this attack, and I can imagine you feel devastated for her as well. You wouldn't have wanted this to happen. You're obviously torn between the suffering that she's going through, and then of course the son that you love. It's just odd that he was in, you know, this kind of public schooling to begin with. Do you know why this was the situation? Why he was actually?
Is it expected for an average teacher to deal with this behavior? If he's in a school that has IEPs, then it's the responsibility of the school to make sure that the teachers are capable of dealing with students like this. Like, yeah, this would be the equivalent of having like a 90-pound, you know, 4'11" woman who's like a prisoner guard trying to corral like, you know, 20 of the most violent. Yeah, you have, or you should. It's the responsibility, the obligation of the school to make sure that they can deal with the students that they have with the IEPs they're on. Yeah, of course. So whether this teacher didn't know, or the school fucked up, or the teacher fucked up, or whatever, but yeah, this is the whole. Yeah, this is the obligation that the school has.
Even in?
Yeah, this is one of the really weird things. Like, I'd never heard an argument for charter schools that I had agreed with before I had somebody on my staff that actually had a child that needed an IEP, right? And this kid had like all these problems. They're biting people at school. They're biting teachers. And like, so Massachusetts opened up like a special charter school for these kinds of like special needs kids because, you know, ASD disorders, like this is just something public schools have to deal with nowadays. So I don't know. It's like the more you get into any of these policies, the more you understand it's a little more difficult than black and white.
I understand what you're saying there, and I'm sympathetic towards
Shit.
it as a rich American. I love anything. I can pay more money to get people. The only thing I don't like about the idea of like charter schools and private schools and all of this is okay, this is one of the biggest like emotional triggers that I have as a parent is I hate the idea of a kid's lot in life being decided by how much money their parents have, and that there are some essential services or needs that could be held from a child because the parents don't have money. For stuff like special education and stuff like being able to treat children in a way that is in accordance with whatever disabilities or developmental delays they might have, this has to be something that like is available to every single child, and it's not just a matter of can you afford the charter school or not. That's not, I understand there are like ways to like make it so that the you know, you give them vouchers or whatever for the charter school, but fuck that. That's always my number one feeling against like private schools and charter schools and stuff like that is like this should be available to all children. We have to be able to fund this and provide for this. It can't just be for the people that have the money for it. Although I understand what you're saying for the unique challenges. Yeah.
Well, I'm not saying like I'm an advocate for charter schools. I guess like when I was growing up in Mississippi, there was a semester that I literally went to school in a trailer with no air conditioner because that's how underfunded everything was. Like literally a trailer in a construction parking lot. That was school for an entire year. It was so hot in Mississippi, we would just go outside and have like school in the parking lot because that was like cooler. So I've seen like a really well-funded school district in Massachusetts where we spend a lot more on this stuff versus like one of the poorest states in the nation. I'm 100% with you. I think like this is why I think the federal government should take a stronger role in education and guaranteeing outcomes. But I'm just saying like for stuff like this where it's hard to get political buy-in because every single one of those parents with kids in ASD disorder, you know, they've got different, you know, it's hard to get buy-in about what the direction you should go is. And like this particular like format of it made it easier to get funding and buy-in from the state. So, you know, it's problematic. It led to better outcomes in this one case for someone I knew.
It doesn't make any sense.
What'd you find?
All of these books are under $5 at thriftbooks.com.
Think they're connected?
They do have a
I don't know if this person just protected me or if they or what they're doing here. If they're trying to help me out by protecting me from this guy. Because if so, that was really fucking nice of him. That deserves a heart.
Yeah. Yeah. What
I mean, do you see this as somebody that hires a lot of people? Because like I have been hiring people for teams for, my God, it's like over 20 years now. And the number of people that just going through the rotation that have like autism is something you have to deal with as a project manager. It just keeps going up and up and up and up. And like when I first started managing projects, I didn't know anything about like how to have someone on staff with this and to like, you know, like accommodate them and make it a good workplace. You've got to see this too with some people you end up working with.
That have special needs that need to be accommodated for?
Well, just it seems like there are a lot of people in the streaming space in general, and I don't know, like people on your team, do you not have people you end up working with professionally that like have autism?
I'm trying to think. Probably, but like at a far more limited degree, I think. Not like we're not talking like medium, low functioning autistic people. I don't think. So no, I don't think I deal with that many mental disabilities in terms of that. But also I'm employing like contractors and stuff that are working from home and everything. I'm sure if I had like an office or an actual workspace, it would probably be a lot different.
I think for engineering, you're just absolutely going to run into it. And it blows my mind that we don't talk about this more in college. Like, I think it should be like one of these standardized things you have to learn before you get out. Because it just, I'm not talking, like, you can get better outcomes on a project by just understanding what people need and then changing a few things. Like, it's not that hard to go, like, if you've got somebody with autism on your staff, like, give them questions, like a list of what the questions will be before the meeting so they can kind of answer it better. It leads to better outcomes for the team in my experience.
Sure. Yeah, that's not surprising me, yeah. You know?
There
Before I
we
get into
go.
everything, I just want to say that I'm still very new to all of this. I don't know who I can trust, who I can tell things to, who I can be myself around, who I can allow in my private life. I also want to say I never want to be the person who can't be involved in things or around others simply because I run my mouth or expose people. I pride myself in being a good person and being as true to myself as possible. For those of you who have confided in me and trusted me with sensitive information, please do not feel as if this tweet puts you at the risk of being twit-longered or that you cannot trust me. Oh, I feel so much at ease now. I've done a lot of bad things in my past and I've hurt a lot of people, and I'm trying my best to make up for it. That being said, I'm posting this in the hopes that people can be held accountable for their shitty behavior and be better men, better people. I want to say a few very important things right off the bat. 1, both parties involved were consenting adults. 2, I was under the influence of alcohol. I'm a lightweight to get drunk very easily. 3, I do not believe that being under the influence of alcohol means you cannot consent. And 4, I'm sober and my head is clear while writing this. Okay, well then why the fuck are we writing anything at all? It's kind of weird, but okay. I feel like I'm about to read something really stupid, but... When I visited Montreal, my reason for being there was to meet my Counter-Strike 2 clan as well as another female creator. While being there, Persec randomly reached out to me and asked how long I would be there and if I would be open to hanging out. I didn't know who he was, only that he was involved in some drama about getting paid for work, and they had tweeted me to form an alliance. At that time, the tweet was very confusing, and I remember not understanding why he would tweet that to me. After agreeing to hang out, I told him that I would be having dinner, and that he was more than welcome to meet me at the restaurant.
Kinda
and then we'd
sucks.
figure it all out as the night went on. Persec arrived, we had one drink at the restaurant and spent time talking about ourselves, doing the whole getting to know you thing. After the fact, we went to my Airbnb so I could change into something more comfortable.
Oh,
and
what?
Go bar hopping. At the last bar we went to,
Not
the
that
first time
way.
alcohol began to kick in and my inhibitions lowered. Against my better judgment, I invited him back to my Airbnb to watch a movie. While watching the movie, he initiated conversations about XQC. He revealed a lot of sensitive information about him, as well as showing me photos he snuck of him, while XQC was unaware of photos being taken of him. In addition to those things, he incessantly bragged about the perks of being friends with him, i.e. getting a streamer backpack and not having to pay for it. Is that...
Damn, I
Where is my
trusted
free streamer
him.
backpack?
Shit.
Loser. I am not
I
friends
was
with you,
thinking
Antonio, by
about
the way.
just moving in on him
Getting a
too.
streamer backpack and not having to pay for it. Things of that nature. What did he get? Did he
Damn
get stickers
it.
for free too? Christ. Being
'Cause
that
I thought
drunk
it was
and honestly
unfair
excited
that
I was
he
going to
had
sex for the first
those
time
two
ever,
and
just
I
acted
only had
interested and
these
hoped he would make a
two.
move. Eventually, moves were made and it happened. Everything that happened afterward is something that I haven't really been able to get over. After finishing, Persec proceeded to tell me that he came to me, and he then proceeded to lie and say I told him to do so, which is false. I am very aware that it was a consensual choice to have unprotected sex, but who in their right mind is nutting at a woman they just met? What makes it even more upsetting is that while he offered to buy a plan, he never did.
Damn it.
After the fact, we laid in bed, and obviously things were awkward. I was
Alright, one sec.
Who,
Damn it. Bro, I need to quit making alliances. I trust people too
there's a first
much.
year teaching, and she didn't, I don't know if she didn't understand the IEP, if she didn't read it, but she approached the group home and asked the group home to send it in.
Listen, for anybody who watches that video, it's hard for them to get past it, and I can understand. They'd be devastated for Joan Nadich, the victim in this attack, and I can imagine you feel devastated for her as well. You wouldn't have wanted this to happen. You're obviously torn between the suffering that she's going through, and then of course the son that you love. It's just odd that he was in, you know, this kind of public schooling to begin with. Do you know why this was the situation? Why he was actually?
Is it expected for an average teacher to deal with this behavior? If he's in a school that has IEPs, then it's the responsibility of the school to make sure that the teachers are capable of dealing with students like this. Like, yeah, this would be the equivalent of having like a 90-pound, 4'11" woman who's like a prisoner guard trying to corral 20 of the most violent. Yeah, you have, or you should. It's the responsibility, the obligation of the school to make sure that they can deal with the students that they have with the IEPs they're on. Yeah, of course. So whether this teacher didn't know, or the school fucked up, or the teacher fucked up, or whatever, but yeah, this is the obligation that the school has.
Even in?
Yeah, this is one of the really weird things. Like, I've
Damn
never
it.
heard an argument for charter schools that I had agreed with before I had somebody on my staff that actually had a child that needed an IEP, right? And this kid had all these problems. They're biting people at school. They're biting teachers. And so Massachusetts opened up a special charter school for these kinds of special needs kids because, ASD disorders, this is just something public schools have to deal with nowadays. So I don't know. It's the more you get into any of these policies, the more you understand it's a little more difficult than black and white.
I understand what you're saying there, and I'm sympathetic towards it as a rich American. I love anything I can.
Sorry, I thought this guy was smart. It turns out he's a fucking moron. Okay. I won't allow you to frame my arguments or tell me what my arguments are because you are being dishonest in the framing.
No,
of
you're
them.
being dishonest.
Stop.
You swapped the
She sounds kind of like a
I did not swap the
bitch.
hypothetical at all. I do not swap the hypothetical at all. There's no way. You just saying it over and over doesn't make
I
it
can
true.
literally show you how you did this. What you did was you asked about a bifurcated choice. Once it was demonstrated which of us would take that choice, you then said the people who are attracted to secondary sex characteristics on one or the other, that's more or less homosexual. The thing is, though, is that you did not add in anything about attraction, only which choice would you take.
Right, and part of the which choice is which would you have sex with, which to some degree we would assume in there is some level of attraction. Just like you said, levels of attraction include things like your sexual orientation, which genitals you would like to deal with, what you're attracted to physically, a number of things like this, which is why I'm saying having sex with a vagina is more straight than having sex for men than having sex with a dick, obviously. However, being attracted to body parts or selecting to have sex with secondary body parts that are of the opposite gender is just a little bit more gay, obviously.
I see your argument, but again, the question was if you had to choose between this genitalia or this genitalia, which one?
Which
would
one
you
is
choose?
it? Alright, it's fixed.
That is not your question. Hold on, stop. that is not the question because
It's just you being dishonest and reframing it.
no,
now.
because
You're
it's
just being
attached.
dishonest.
Attached to the question isn't whether you want to have sex with a dick or a pussy. The question is Hulk Hogan or Megan Fox, which implies hypermasculinity and
Bro, is she arguing about what Andrew Tate said?
hyperfemininity, which is part of attraction.
But you're cutting off
necessarily.
the genitalia, 'cause
I'm not cutting off the genitalia. I'm including them. You guys are trying to cut off the genitalia.
No, they're trying to cut off the person. They're trying to pretend it's only the
saying it's
genitalia
only
when we're
genitalia.
attaching it to the
No, it's not. The hypothetical is inherently not genitalia because why the fuck would I say Hulk Hogan and Megan Fox if all I wanted to ask people about is whether they prefer pussy or dick?
Then it's just still the same exact thing where you're saying that if a guy is with a really ugly woman,
Huh?
because she's
It's
just
not the
really
same.
ugly.
It's not the
Yeah,
same.
if she looks
No,
like
because
if she
really
looks like a
ugly
man,
women
if she looks
aren't-
like whatever your definition is of a man,
Yeah.
even though she's just an ugly woman,
Do you want me
right?
to
You're
walk
saying
you
if a
through
guy
why
has
you're
sex with her, he's
incorrect?
gay.
Do you want me to wait until you're done
That's
speaking?
what
Are
you're
you done
saying.
spurging? I can explain again.
You're the one
For
cutting me
the
off every
second
time I talk.
For the second time, I'll explain again why what you just said
Use really
isn't
small
what I said.
words.
Sure, I'll try using little kid words. For
If you can you get a coloring book?
Maybe.
That would be great. You got one in front of you. Get a purple pen.
Yeah, do you want to color my rope
And then explain
diagram?
to me how that's not just an ugly woman.
Okay, the reason why I didn't say what you just finished saying. Fuck, what did you even say now? God,
That that's an
I'm
ugly
fucking
woman.
sneaky with this. What?
That's just an ugly woman.
No, okay, thank you. Thank you, actually. I appreciate that. The reason why it's not just an ugly woman is because I already outlined that this is disanalogous and you're lumping in a larger group of people than I am talking about because not all women look like Hulk Hogan or have secondary sex
So what?
characteristics. My entire point is secondary sex
But
characteristics.
okay, wait a second.
So if I started including fucking birds in this,
So then,
that wouldn't
so
matter.
could there
because the
be?
category
Oh,
isn't what
well,
we're
could there
talking
be
about.
ugly women who look like Hulk Hogan?
Yeah. So
well, then your point's totally mute,
no, you
dipshit.
fucking
Yes,
moron.
yes.
You fucking
You're-
moron.
Oh, you're a fucking moron.
Let me walk you through categorical philosophy. Okay?
Let's walk through it.
Yeah, I'll
Why
draw
do
you
you
a
Categorical
Wait, 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 wait,
philosophy.
wait. Here's a
Informal
picture.
logic.
Here's a picture of birds. Okay.
Uh-huh.
All sorts of birds go in this circle, and inside of this circle is seagulls. Okay.
Coloring competition now.
See that? Seagulls. So seagulls.
Why would you do that?
They're much cuter. Okay. Actually, that's not true. Seagulls are cuter. That's a good one. Okay?
That's fine. We like
In
swans.
another circle, we have ugly women. And then in
Oh, it's a
smaller
fucking-
circle, inside the
Really
big
small
circle
circle.
is Hulk Hogan women.
And here we have just an ugly woman. It's just an ugly woman.
How dare you draw me
That's
like
it,
that,
just an
Andrew?
ugly woman.
How dare you draw
They
me like that?
exist, and if a heterosexual man has sex with one,
They're
just
not
a
gay.
heterosexual
Yeah,
man.
You know you're wrong.
they're
You
not
have to do
fucking
culturally
gay.
rather than dealing with categorical analysis because you know that you're
Well,
incorrect.
no, I didn't say a very ugly
Because
woman.
how like majority of ugly women don't have beards and chest hair. They're just ugly.
Yeah, but it doesn't. It
women-
wouldn't
some women
matter
grow
if
chest
if
hair.
her
I didn't say all, I
if her
said
counter
majority.
if her
Or
counter
unibrows.
analysis
That's
is to
true.
say
And it's free to come.
if her
Okay.
counter analysis is to just say
No, it's too far.
hey, there are women who exist outside this group of ugly women who are
Oh.
ugly women. That wouldn't matter. All that would matter is that there's women.
Hold on, it would
Stop
matter.
talking
No.
so I can finish my point.
No,
Stop talking so
you're
I can
going
finish my
to-
point.
you're talking
Stop
about-
talking so I can finish
you're
my
talking
point.
about my
Stop
position.
spurging. Stop spurging. Stop
You're
spurging.
incorrect
Stop
about
spurging. It's my
my
turn.
position.
Why
As
don't
long
you
as you
stop
keep saying it,
spurging?
it'll be true,
Stop
right?
spurging.
Okay.
Stop spurging.
We don't like to go because he's about to reframe my argument.
No, I'm about to tell the truth. Is what I'm about to do.
Oh, God.
Okay, so
Okay.
anyway, and she's just going to repeat. She'll repeat. I promise she's going to repeat this exact same thing. She's going to say,
Stop telling me.
there's
Stop.
women.
Hold on. Stop.
There's women who
No,
exist.
stop.
She's still
Hold on,
spurging.
hold on.
Still
One
spurging.
of you Brian, he cannot be outlining my.
I can because I'm doing it right now. So
You're
anyway,
incorrect.
yeah, I am correct. So all you're doing, all she's doing is saying there's women who exist outside of the category. There's women who exist outside or
That's not
inside
what
of the
I'm saying.
category.
Here's the
I asked her, are there women who exist inside the category of ugly women who look like Hulk Hogan? If the answer is yes, you still haven't made a compelling argument as to how that's non-heterosexual sex or in any way even homosexual.
I appreciate that you're trying to back it back up to the broader conversation, and we can go there, but I just want to make it super clear that we're being completely dishonest.
No, 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 no,
You
no.
know that, because
Okay,
you know,
cool.
You know categorical philosophy, so I know that you know this. When you said that when I'm saying that men who have sex with ugly women are gay, you knew that you were engaging in a categorical fallacy because you know that not all ugly
Categorical.
women look like Hulk Hogan.
They don't
the
have
only
to.
people, yes, they do. My claim is that
Write
men
it
who
out
have
in a
sex.
premise for me.
My premise is that men who are having sex with Hulk Hogan women are more gay. That's my premise. So when you expand
Yeah,
to
but
the broader
what's- yeah,
category,
I understand
it's
your
a fallacy.
argument, but what's my
Stop.
argument
I'm
back?
not done. I'm not done. Can
Yeah, but
you
what's
look
my
at-
argument
fuck is-
back? That's where you're.
No, no,
that's the
no, no,
disconnect.
I'm not moving off of this until you
Yeah, but I'm
agree.
telling you, I'm actually telling you the structural problem here. The structural problem is you're confusing two things. So my argument back to you, though, is to say, no, this is false inside of this category.
What is
That's
the
the
categorical
distinction.
analysis?
Yeah, so you're pointing at this and saying this is a category. I'm denying that category exists. I'm just saying that's just another ugly woman.
So you just
And
think-
some ugly women look like Hulk Hogan.
Yeah, but you're agreeing with me. You're right.
I don't think I
some
am.
ugly women, if we use a circle for the poor chat, some,
Yeah.
if this is ugly women, some of
Yes.
them look like Hulk Hogan.
Yes.
Not all women who are ugly look like Hulk
That's
Hogan.
correct.
So when you conflate my argument as saying Hulk
didn't
Hogan
conflate
women
it.
are, you did,
Nope.
you are being fallacious about my
There's no
argument, and I
fallacy.
need you to stop
There's
being
no
fallacious
fallacy.
for me to engage in good faith.
Then go ahead and tell me. Explain how wrong.
I will explain it again if you would like.
Not as
Okay, thank you. I have a side question.
Hold on, I will explain it one more time for the class.
I really want to
get
get it. Do you think men who have anal sex are gay? Like if a guy does anal
to a woman.
You mean-
They're not gay, but
Wait.
it makes them a little bit fruity.
Yeah, they're not homosexuals, no.
because they're into it.
Okay.
They're into the
So
act,
they're like
but
a
it
little
doesn't make
gay.
them gay.
So anal sex is not inherently gay.
But it's a woman's
It's not.
Wait, are they doing it to a man or a
That's
woman?
not.
That's the question.
Listen, homosexual. That's an. It's not for me. It's not an allocation. For my worldview of logical possibility. So everybody has different worldviews for what even starts with logical possibility. Homosexuality is an act. It's an act. It's not even an attraction. As you
Yeah.
could be a person who's attracted to the same sex, never act on it, you'd never be a homosexual.
I know that's
Ever.
pretty gay if you're attracted to men. Like,
You
what
could
if,
say
what
if
if,
it's-
like,
you could say it's
every
gay,
man you
but
see
what
you
I'm
wanna
saying a
fuck
homosexual
so
is-
bad, but then you never act on it, you're super gay.
For instance, let's say that you had 2 gay animals, okay, 2 homosexual animals. How do you know when they're homosexuals?
I mean, but like,
No. How do you know when they're homosexuals?
When they have sex.
I really want to fuck other guys.
Right, they
but I
really
can't.
want to do
You're
this
still
thing,
gay.
but what I'm saying is that it's an action.
I mean, sexual
Homosexuality is an
attraction.
action. Yes,
because
it's an
it's
action.
attraction. Like, if you want to
It's
fuck
an action.
guys not
Are
acting
an
on it, you're
action.
still,
I can't-
you're still gay.
Thoughts are treated as an action in all of behavioral
No.
science. Yes,
Yes, it is.
You are
Behavioral
completely
psych,
wrong on this.
100%.
In all of behavioral psychology since Skinner, we have treated thoughts as an action because you can train thoughts as much as you can train other things.
What's the subconscious?
That the subconscious, like what
What's
do you
the
mean
id,
specifically?
the ego?
I'm not talking about psychoanalysis.
Yeah,
I'm
but if you're talking about the id or
behavioral
the ego, or what you call the
science. I'm not talking
subconscious,
about
or whatever these things are.
No, I'm talking about, wait,
What
you're
I'm-
talking about like Freudian shit.
No,
I'm talking about
I'm just,
Skinner.
what I'm asking
Ah,
is,
this
how
guy
thoughts
actually
that
made
are
it
your
easier.
thoughts.
Yeah, you can have intrusive
Right, so then
thoughts.
from my worldview,
Black-haired girl saying that a man would prioritize the extreme feminine presentation over female genitalia. Conversely, would he be more repulsed by the masculine extreme or the male genitalia?
That's a pretty good way.
So anyway,
That's a pretty
the,
good way of asking.
the question becomes, remember I explained to you a long time ago in a debate about the concept from the Orthodox worldview of the logisme. Same thing in the Catholic
Remind me
worldview,
what that
though
means,
they don't call it the logisme, they have a very similar thing, which is that those bad sinful thoughts that come into your head, they're not your own, they're demonic thoughts. And these are not things which you would actionably do, absent the fact that those were inserted into your brain. So the reason that inside of Christianity we say, listen, you're not really a homosexual if you're not acting on the thoughts, we're not even sure that they're yours.
Sure. So I guess my response to that would be, what is it? The Sermon on the Mount, where Jesus, or is it Sermon on the Mount, where he says, if you think a hateful thought, you should like if you steal, you should think of stealing, you should cut off your hand. If you like lust after a woman, you should pluck after your eyes. So I guess I would just say
That's
like,
actually referencing that, though. That's actually saying that
saying
these,
thoughts can be sin.
yeah, it's saying that these thoughts which are introduced to you, it's better to do anything except act on those thoughts.
Can I ask something?
Well, lusting is
Isn't that hypothetical?
I think we just fundamentally
So
disagree.
you're saying
It's in your worldview. I thought you were like more Catholic. That is part of that worldview.
No,
So you're saying that if you think,
wait,
so you're saying if you think homosexual thoughts but you don't act on them, that's not homosexual, right? But
That
we're thinking
makes
about
you-
attract, like, having attraction. Then you also said if you have those attractions but you don't act on them,
but
that's
the
not
problem
homosexual.
is, from my
But
worldview-
I'm sorry, I'm just trying to. I just want to ask this before I get my point. So, just make sure I'm understanding you right. If you have like gay attraction but you don't act on it, you're not gay.
Yes.
But what are those thoughts? Okay, not to be too explicit, but those thoughts might give you an erection. And so, if you look at men and you get an erection, is that gay?
Yeah, so I'm just trying to explain to you that the thoughts which are introduced into your brain to act on these, what we would consider sinful behaviors that you're not supposed to do, that's from the tradition she comes from and the tradition
No,
I come from.
I'm keeping
Okay,
Catholic
so
anyway.
in both of these traditions, these thoughts which are introduced into your brain, that in itself is not the sinful.
understand, but there's no difference between, like, an intrusive
I'm almost done. I'm super close. Right? Those thoughts which are introduced themselves are not sins. It's your actions that make them sin.
But I guess there's a difference between like an intrusive thought that like can just randomly come and does not have like any say over what you actually feel, and then like genuine attraction.
Right. So the question
like, that might cause
becomes:
a bodily
this is the
response.
question
Yeah,
of the
and then at that
logisme.
point, if you have a bodily
This is the
response,
question
is
of
that
the
kind of an
logisme.
action?
Which are which? So which ones are thoughts which are introduced?
Why is this guy
and
acting
which
like
ones
that?
Come from you? That's a much tougher question. And so in my tradition, we say most of the thoughts that go into your head are probably not yours. Most of them are probably
agree with that.
demonic thoughts.
Yeah, but no, if you're having a bodily reaction
That's
to
what-
like
that's
these
what I was
thoughts,
getting at.
that's where it becomes
that's
something
what I was
gay,
asking.
right? It's like if you're, what is it?
So if it gives you an erection, is that
could still have a reaction based on those thoughts, the introduction of thoughts, and have a physiological response, and still never act on those things. So we have to be cautious.
So you're saying if a guy gets a hard on because he sees another hot dude and wants to fuck him but never does, he's not gay.
I'm asking you this question. I'm asking you from my view.
Yeah, I'm saying that's really
I get what both of them are
I'm
saying.
answering you. My answer would be no, but here's why. From my tradition, we're saying
I think that you can be gay without acting upon it. Actually, no. I get what he's saying, that it is an action. Yeah, I actually agree with him. Yeah.
saying the thoughts introduced into the brain. There are thoughts introduced into the brain which are demonic thoughts, and those thoughts can have all sorts. They can put pictures in your head of all sorts of lustful things. They can put pictures in your head of all sorts of attractions you may not have. This is all Christian traditions have this, except maybe some Protestant ones, including Kyla, who says she's more involved with Catholics. She has to kind of concede that this is
But
also
we're saying
true.
it's no longer a thought. We
You
have a
don't.
bodily
I don't have to
reaction.
concede to the extent that you're trying to use it. For example, I don't think any person in Christianity or secular world actually believes that if a dude, like say, sorry, I won't use Brian, say a guy named Tom, every time he sees a guy that he's kind of into, he gets really attracted, he thinks about men a lot, and maybe he never masturbates to it ever. Every single person would say that he has a gay sexual orientation.
Okay.
Every
so,
single
so
person.
let me ask you. Hang on, let me ask this.
Including Catholicism.
Is that a sin from Catholicism standpoint to act in homosexual
Whether he has
ways?
a sexual orientation or is doing a sin are not
Right,
the
but
same
don't the
things.
Catholics say that the reason there's a distinction is because it's possible that the demonic is influencing him, and him not acting on it is him acting away from sin.
It's
Kyla.
possible, but it's also possible, and a lot of Catholics would agree, the Pope would agree with this, that people can have a predilection to be gay, and in the Catholic world they would say, by not acting on your sexual orientation, you're not engaging in sin.
No,
But none
the
of them are saying
Catholic
you're not actually
tradition.
gay.
The Catholic tradition is to say if you're not. The whole point of their tradition for treatment for homosexuality is to say this is a sin. You're not supposed to do this, and then they try to steer you away from the sin. They claim that the sin comes from the enemy. The thoughts for the sin
Yes.
come from the enemy, not from you. And we know that it's not coming from you because you're trying to get away from it. That's why you're going to the church. So these are introductions into your brain of demonic thoughts you're not acting on. You still just want them to
So
be
this
gay,
is,
no matter what.
This is your worldview. I'm telling you,
That's
though,
the Catholic tradition.
it is not a Catholic tradition.
No. no.
Careful about the words I choose on this.
Fuck.
There are instances where things happen to someone of force, I'm going to say, and your body has a natural reaction. in those situations, did that person want it? Absolutely not. I would argue that they didn't. And I'm trying to not use.
I know what you're saying. I'm not connecting why you would talk about
You're
orgasmic
saying
during
no.
rape
I'm saying
to-
so. There's a physical bodily reaction. Are you saying that that person wanted it? You're saying that if someone's body naturally
I didn't
reacts
say anything
to
about body.
like a wet dream.
I'm saying that person is,
But if
baked, no, baked into this, baked
Hold
into
on, would you agree that there's a really big difference between being raped and then having a sexual response versus having constant, repeated
Physical
thought,
stimulation is a
sexual
big
attraction
difference,
to
Matt.
it?
Yeah,
Like,
but there's
during,
like
during
baked
rape,
into
you're actually
this.
being touched. There's a physical stimulation happening to you.
Also, baked
What
into
I'm
this is
saying
that
is
wait,
it's hard, no one touched it.
Please let me finish. Baked into this, baked into what we were talking about, we have explicitly stated the guy is attracted to other men, gets hard because of other men, but never actually has sex with other men. Andrew was saying that's not gay. All of us, sorry, all of us are saying no, that's gay. If you're attracted, you get hard on it, you want it, but you don't act on it, you're still gay.
Obviously, everyone would agree that if you're attracted to
New
men,
topic. New topic, and we're gonna wrap up very soon. We're gonna wrap up.
People are saying rip leftovers. Yeah, probably.
Oh, damn. Already?
That's so good.
That he's actually ending it completely.
Wouldn't that be up if I was like, leftovers is coming back? That is. Don't do it. We were talking about the idea of making a cooking show. It is probably
That'd be
over, just to, I guess, put it out there. People want to know. And again, I said this on.
What if it was a cooking show with Ethan Klein and Hassan? Wouldn't that be good? Like no politics whatsoever, or maybe like mildly veiled politics. I don't know. I feel like there's something there. Like Hassan probably can't cook, right? Can he? I don't know if he can. Streamers, as a general rule, can't take care of themselves, right?
Huh.
I want to emphasize that me and Hassan are still friends, and this has nothing to do with Hassan.
Can you?
Everything he's done. Okay. It's
Just a little.
That I'm deciding for myself to not do that show anymore. I mean, you know what I mean? I know there's a lot of people upset that like the show, and I'm glad. Frankly, I'm happy. I'm sorry that it's
Glad they're upset.
probably ending, but I'm grateful that everyone that watched it enjoyed it. It's nice to see that people care about it, but at the end of the day,
I feel like this had the potential to be so much more than it was, and I'm very upset that it's over. And I'm primarily blaming Hassan because the main issue seems to have been Hassan's incredibly vitriolic mod base and community that tore Ethan to shreds on some of which were bad takes. I do think there were things Ethan did that were pretty cringe with regards to like the Hamas, Israel, blah blah. But like that with a community that vitriolic, it basically becomes impossible. This is what I've been saying from the beginning, dude. Like literally, like years and years and years ago, is if you want to be an effective advocate for socialism or progressivism or leftism or whatever else, the main demographic you have to be able to talk to and work with is liberals. And Ethan Klein is a liberal. The problem is that because Hassan's community had gotten insular to the point that they rejected anyone outside of their, ideological bubble, the fact that Ethan Klein was at times a liberal and acted like it, meant that they didn't think of this as a situation where they were like, well, we can bring him over. He's a social democrat. Do not embarrass me, chat. Social democrats are liberals. You should know that. Anyway,
Social democrats
liberal that he may be, Ethan Klein is a a good and respectable person, and when he did liberal things, to live is to cringe. The community responded incredibly vitriolically rather than thinking like, oh, how can we I guess accommodate and change this, But that's,
I feel that, I need to look after myself at a certain point and spend my time doing something that's.
Wait, Vosh, genuine question: what makes social democrats liberals? They're liberals. They fall within the purview. That's in Wikipedia. They're liberals. The economic and social paradigms of liberalism are expressed in social democracy. The existence of a welfare state doesn't stop being liberal. It remains a capitalist system. Social democracies, generally speaking, are, it's not socialism. It's not socialism. It's capitalism. Socialism.
Not spend my time doing something that is going to,
Yeah, social democracy. It's a subset of liberalism.
It's my life.
Nothing wrong with it. No, there's something wrong with it. They're filthy liberals. But anyone can change.
To a certain point, it stopped becoming a show to an extent, or at least just the very end of it. And it's my life. So
social democracies fall within the liberal framework. Yes.
I have to protect the sanctity of that, and that's why I'm probably going to not do it anymore. Yeah, it sucks that we're gonna miss the 2024 election. Maybe we'll come back for it. I don't know. I don't want to.
Capitalist doesn't mean liberal means different things. Capitalism is the liberal economic mode. The liberal thinkers, the ones that began liberalism, like the concept, the global wave of liberalism. Capitalism was the economic philosophy that went along with it. Social democrats can be liberal. Social democrats historically were a form of socialist. Yes, social democrat used to be the sick, nasty, put on the Groucho Marx glasses, we're a socialist, but we're going to participate in electoralism as a way of advancing the socialist interest through the apparatus of the state. But what happened to all of the European social democrat parties? Cucked. Each and every one of them. All of them are cucked now. Labor Party cucked. Lenin was right. The Germans, they double cucked. Luxembourg, and they're all cucked. Cucks. The whole lot of them. Cucks.
Set any expectations.
There's all of your shit.
I'm gonna keep it just open for myself. But
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Is collabing with Hassan in the future off the table? Because I really want to hang out with Kaya again.
No, of course it's not off the table, and that's a good question. Thank you. No, it's not off the table at all. You know what I mean? It's still the same as it was. It's just
Gotcha.
the show is on.
I have a question.
How do they say in Hollywood? They say it's on a indefinite hiatus.
Yeah, that's correct.
What, AB?
Do we have to take down his portrait in the hallway?
Do you want to?
No, I'm kidding. I love Hassan.
Yeah, I was gonna say you can leave it up, but if it's if you want to remove it, AB, if it makes you uncomfortable or something, let's get rid of it.
It's such a weird. The vibes are weird.
But I like it. I like it. Let's see here. Johnny says, I totally respect that you need to protect yourself, but know that there are those of us who love you and Hassan will miss leftover credit. But that's not, I mean, that is nice to hear. I didn't even realize that there was such a little kind of following, because I mean, it's the least popular show on the channel. Not by a lot. I mean, the views were really good for a political show, I think. Compared to other stuff, I think it was really.
It's only got like 500K to 700K.
Yeah.
Definitely a top
Or
one.
even more than that, I think at the end it was getting like, I think 700 about, which is great. I mean, it's great. But
I don't know. I'm no Hassan fan, but I think Ethan is overreacting. Nah, if I was doing consistent collabs with somebody and their community was as openly antagonistic towards me as his was towards Ethan, I would definitely not respond positively to that. Not just because like it's not just like a sensitivity thing. Like I can clearly deal with a lot of antagonism. It's just like some of that shit was psychotic, man. You know. Again, a lot of it is also it's the mod community too, right?
Yellow.
Because if it was just some people in Hassan's
Hey,
community
what's
that were
up?
being freaks, Hassan could go like, yeah, those people are being psycho, shut up, right? Like, you know, he could like play it down. But
You've
since
never
the mod
felt
community
what?
was directly enabling it, he can't really do that because that causes him a bunch of trouble.
Why?
Then he has to deal with the mods being, you know, freaking out at him about, you know, them being betrayed or whatever. He can't really do that, which is why Hassan did this thing where he did the thing where he like downplayed the involvement of the mods and was doing the like, well, you know, it's a free speech chatteroni. The Italian Hassan. Yeah, I don't know. Has Hassan said anything about this? Yeah, I'm sure.
I didn't realize so many people cared.
Yeah.
About it. To be honest, that surprised me. But I'm grateful. You know.
When we first decided to do a political show, I was really not into the idea, but honestly, I'm really gonna miss it. I really love that show.
Yeah.
Rightfully, man.
Huh? Weird. Huh? Weird. Yeah. 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 Okay. Fucking A. Alright. Yeah. No, I'm... Are you talking to them? Oh. Alright, I'll see you later. Love ya. Bye. Fuck, bro. These fucking bots are just annoying the piss out of me. 'Cause they suck.
Understand?
Yeah. God, that sucks. Let's do some chestnuts for her. It says do an
Is that
election
it?
season special leftovers. I mean,
Why the song? Stop.
And that song is just
Fuck.
Stop the song.
That's
even if it's not enough.
Dude, the original version sucked. It's something that I'll be floating around in my head until something coalesces, probably. But for now, I don't have any immediate plans. But I'm you know, my head is always kind of thinking. So we'll see.
You and Jay Shetty.
Me and Jay. Oh, Enlightened Monks.
Are there, it seems
What
like
would be the name for me and Jay Shetty podcast?
I feel like there's an effort is being made here to like play it off and kind of downplay the negative feelings, I guess. He is a liberal. Ah, yes, of course. What did Martin Luther King Jr. say about the liberal preferring a passive peace to an active justice or whatever it was? Truly, you know, the internal contradictions of liberalism laid open before us all here in the form of Ethan Klein. All right, probably just trying to avoid problem. Comments turned off, whatever. Yeah, Hassan, this is from Hassan sub. Hassan got me the divorce, same, can't look at Ethan the same way anymore. Got my first sub during the subathon, then October 7th happened, and Ethan just went completely off the rails. I mean, I guess I wouldn't be surprised if they were antagonistic towards Ethan, but... Well, I do think at a point Ethan went off the rails. It's not that, it's just there were so many, like, overlapping issues here.
The bots are so annoying, especially when you have a person like this who just stays down in here, because then they just always are attacking.
Full black. It wasn't like, what happened? It was pretty obvious what happened. And we couldn't get over the fact that we're like, this is the face of the company? Like, this is what you have greeting people? And my boy who I was with was like, yeah, I feel bad.
The rise of fascist moms. What the fuck?
Rowing is boring and hard, but it's an efficient workout that uses 86% of muscles. This inspired me to combine my love of games, community, and competition to create something truly unique and even addictive. I want to make it easy for you to get a full body workout that's fun by using game psychology and design to drive motivation and results. My name is Andy, and I'm the founder of Avron. My mission, to change the way you think and feel about rowing.
In this video, I'm going to show you how to deploy an LLM-based app with one click using ZHub capsules. Available for free today at zhub.com. Let's get started. So deployments are managed in ZHub in a feature we've just released called Capsules. So just click on Capsules, and now we can launch this project as a capsule. The first time you do this, there's a couple of app settings you need to specify. What type of app is this? Where should ZHub launch your app from? And any secrets that your app requires. So just select the branch and click Deploy. And now ZHub is building a Docker container, installing the requirements for your project or for your app, and then hosting it. We'll refresh, and now we'll see that ZHub has already finished creating the capsule and deploying it. If I look at my logs, you can see that what ZHub did was build a Docker container, then install the requirements that are defined in the requirements.txt in the file, and then hosted the app. So I'm all set. So I told you I write a lot of emails, so I want this app to use all of my Notion documents to help me write emails. So I've written out my input and I've sent it off to OpenAI. And sure enough, I've got my response. And so now I've got something to start with.
Damn it! That is not what I wanted.
And all I had to do to get here was to duplicate an existing...
I was really hoping that they weren't gonna be able to fucking
train my model,
trade
and then in one click
any cards.
Deploy my capsule. This is a private project, but I could easily change this to a public project, and then if I want to share this with a friend of mine, I can click Share Capsule, copy the link, and share it with anyone I'd like. So it's just that simple to take your next ML project and deploy it as an application using ZHub capsules. Get started today at zhub.com, and thanks for watching.
So in September,
These
Ruby
fucking...
Frankie from the 8 Passengers YouTube channel was charged with 6 counts of basically abusing her children. This person was a very famous YouTuber who gave a lot of parenting advice and showed herself disciplining her children very harshly. And a lot
Dude,
of
I
people at the time
fucking
had a lot
hate
of problems with that.
these
And I'd actually watched YouTube video essays
people
about
who
her.
do this.
So when she actually got arrested for this, it wasn't surprising, but it was kind of like a really weird moment. But there's a YouTube channel called Cruel World Happy Mind, and I've been watching her channel for like a couple years, and something that keeps popping up is like mum influencers. And what often a lot of them are is like very conservative, right? And a lot of them have crossover with conservative organizations, and that's to say that mums are not okay right now. Mums are not doing okay. Obviously, you know, this economy isn't great to have a child in, but mainly I am talking about American Christian mums who are actually helping to usher in fascism in the United States. Now, one thing I will just say quick, I was thinking, like, do I talk about Mumsnet in this video, which is more of like a British thing, and British mums are not okay either. But the reason I don't really want to talk about that in this video is that because of how weird transphobia is in the UK, a lot of gender-critical feminists who are mothers themselves, they don't consider themselves right-wing. They consider themselves like actual liberal feminists, and they're just pushing back what they see as men invading women's spaces. You know, by that they mean trans women. And although there is a lot of crossover there, you see people like J.K.
Fuck.
Rowling praise Matt Walsh, for example. I felt like to keep more focused on the far right angle, or like the more traditional far right angle, I'd stick with American Christian mums. So if you're wondering why I'm not talking about that, that's why. But yeah, I've been wanting to make this video for a while because I've just been following a lot of his stuff, seeing TikTokers, YouTubers, all these Christian conservative mums, and obviously, we're going to talk about this a lot, Mums for Liberty. And it got me thinking really about why a lot of mums are so drawn to fascism. I guess either being tricked by people saying they want to protect their children, or, you know, being easily manipulated under this slogan, like, I am going to protect your child. And of course, as a loving parent, most parents do want to protect their children. But like I was talking about with those YouTubers and TikTokers, especially that Ruby Frankie lady, there seems to be in, like,
What are you doing?
conservative circles in America,
Why?
this protection of children actually veers into, I'm actually going to abuse my child. And be super disciplinarian and just basically ostracize them from their peers and society.
What is
like
this
homeschool
green
them,
one
for
doing?
example,
This
well,
green
and
one
just
is like a...
actually isolate them because they are so scared.
I don't
of this child
understand what the
being
fuck is
influenced in a
going on
way
here.
They don't like. And I guess the divisions in America are more pronounced in terms of politics. Like, we just had Thanksgiving, and how many times do you hear the stories of, oh, I have to go back to my family as a young person, and they're all right-wing. And they're all horrible, and like I hate most of them because of this. And it feels like conservative parents are very scared of this, and part of their war against education is kind of like a war against their child turning against them later for their conservative politics, because they're like, well, if you don't have critical thinking skills, if you don't learn about the wider world, if you don't go to college and experience like diversity and other cultures, then you'll always be either easier to control or easier to stay part of this family. So I just want to talk about all of this
Hopefully
today and
this
just talk
guy
about how
comes
mums
in and
historically in
attacks
America have
right
propped
there.
up white supremacy, but just talk about how extreme patriarchy and this, I guess, putting motherhood on a pedestal is something that has been around for a long, long time. And of course, this is adjacent to the trad wife stuff at the moment. But again, just like with the Mumsnet stuff, I feel like that might just be a separate video because I feel like the trad wife stuff is more pushed by men, where everything we're going to talk about today, while men are often involved, this is primarily led by mothers and American, primarily white conservative women. So all of that coming up for you today. Please like the video. Let me know what you guys think about any of this stuff in the comments. Also follow me on social media at The Cavernacle, on Twitter, on Instagram, on basically everything. Consider becoming a patron if you want to support my work continuing for the future. Benefits include getting
This guy's a
access
piece
to
of
the
shit.
Patreon's Discord server, and check out all the links in the description for anything you might want to find. So what inspired this video is a headline I read, I think a couple months ago now. Mums.
Testing used to be simple. It's not anymore.
Oh, he's coming for me.
But what if
Maybe
instead
not.
of just managing tests, you could put quality first? Welcome to TestRail. Track all your testing across all your projects. Collaborate with your entire team in one centralized workspace and integrate with the rest of your DevOps stack. So everyone gets
What the fuck is going
Liberty
on
chapter
here?
apologizes for quoting Hitler in its newsletter. So an Indiana chapter of Mums for Liberty, a non-profit that advocates for parental rights in education and was recently labeled extreme.
Don't do that. Are you stupid?
Apologizing and condemning Hitler after using a quote attributed to him in their inaugural newsletter. The group's Hamilton County chapter on Thursday posted a revised version of its newly launched
Why
newsletter,
would you do
Parent
that
Brigade,
if you were
on
him?
Facebook after
You had it so he
shared
couldn't
version that
fucking
featured this quote,
attack
"We
you."
condemn Hitler's actions and his dark place in human history." Read a statement from the chapter chair, Paige Miller, on the cover of the revised newsletter.
And take you
"We
out.
should not
What
have
the
quoted
fuck
him
is
in our
going on
newsletter and
here?
express our deepest apologies." The first version of the newsletter included the quote, "He alone who owns the youth gains the future." While the origin of the quote is not
Alright,
entirely
cool.
clear, it has been attributed
Hopefully
to
no one
the
takes-
1935 speech made by him. Late Wednesday, after the Indianapolis Star reported on the quote, the local Mums for Liberty chapter updated the newsletter to add a context section. Quote has frequently been used by conservative Christian groups as a warning of what they experience as liberal left-wing attempts to indoctrinate children, but some who encountered the newsletter interpreted the Mums for Liberty's use of the quote as an endorsement for him and his beliefs. So this actually wasn't the only time they were quoting him, and the thing is, they're saying, like, you know, he's a terrible person. They're pretty much just repeating his propaganda and his fear-mongering from the 1930s, right? And I honestly think if most conservatives in America knew more about him, they'd like him. And a lot of them do like him in some weird way anyway. Like I made those videos about Jordan Peterson seems to admire him, and a couple others. But yeah, like, honestly unsurprising. And as we're going to get into Mums for Liberty a bit more, do you think they honestly don't like fascism and they don't like far-right politics? Because it's pretty much all they promote. So let's get into an article to explain this a bit more. Mums for Liberty, where are they and why are they winning? So Mums for Liberty is a national organisation that oversees dozens of semi-autonomous county chapters. So they have about 100,000 members across 278 chapters in 45 states. So if we go on the Mum for Liberty website, We'll just have a quick read. Very fast already, seeing some of these pictures. But who are we? We are mums, dads, grands, aunts, uncles, friends. Mums for Liberty welcomes all that have a desire to stand up for parental rights.
Yeah, why
and
would
levels
you
of
have done
government.
that?
Our founders are Tiffany and Tina. Mums on a mission to stoke the fires of liberty. As former school board members, they witness how short-sighted and destructive policies.
And now they're
directly
gonna
hurt children
get-
and families. Now they are using their first-hand knowledge and experience to unite parents who are ready to fight those who stand in the way of liberty. Our mission, Mums for Liberty, is dedicated to fighting for the survival of America. by
Motherfucker.
unifying, educating, and empowering parents to defend their parental rights at all levels of government. Our vision, Americans empowered and thriving in a culture of liberty. Our values,
I
as
knew
joyful
it.
warriors, we stand for truth. We build relationships, we empower others.
And then they're gonna
we
come
fight,
down
we
and
hold
get
accountable,
me.
we spread
And
awareness,
then they're
we
just
promote
playing
government
against
overreach,
this
we promote
bot.
liberty, and engage on key issues. Ready to stoke the fires of liberty in your community? Are you tired of feeling like you are alone in your concerns?
Motherfucker.
Your children? Do you try to speak
Bro,
to community
fuck
leaders about
this
your
guy.
concerns and your voice goes unheard? There is power in numbers, and the purpose of our organization is the fight for the survival of America by unifying, educating, and empowering parents. And they have a pledge on their website. I pledge to honor the fundamental rights of parents, including but not limited to the right to direct the education, medical care, and moral upbringing of their children. I pledge to advance policies that strengthen parental involvement and decision-making, increase transparency, defend against government overreach, and secure parental rights at all levels of government. So we're going to look at their Twitter account in a sec. But yeah, if you're getting like authoritarian far-right vibes from that, you'd be correct. And also, what I always find interesting...
What did it say?
Like far-right politics, because it's pretty much all they promote. So let's get into an article to explain this a bit more. Mums for Liberty, where are they and why are they winning? So Mums for Liberty is a national organisation that oversees dozens of semi-autonomous county chapters. So they have about 100,000 members across 278 chapters in 45 states. So if we go on the Mum for Liberty website, we'll just have a quick read. Very fast already, seeing some of these pictures. But who are we?
Alright, at
We are
least there's
mums,
no
dads,
fucking
grands, aunts, uncles,
bots.
friends. Mums for Liberty welcomes all that have a desire to stand up for parental rights at all levels
They
of government.
welcome
Our founders are
all.
Tiffany and Tina. Mums on a mission to stoke the fires of liberty. As former school board members, they witness how short-sighted and destructive policies directly hurt children and families. Now they are using their first-hand knowledge and experience to unite parents who are ready to fight those who stand in the way of liberty. Our mission, Mums for Liberty, is dedicated to fighting for the survival of America by unifying, educating, and empowering parents to defend their parental rights at all levels of government. Our vision, Americans empowered and thriving in a culture of liberty. Our values, as joyful warriors, we stand for truth. We build relationships, we empower others. How we fight, we hold leaders accountable, we spread awareness, we oppose government overreach, we promote liberty, and engage on...
Oppose government
Ready to stoke the
overreach.
fires of liberty?
Promote liberty. Yeah, definitely fascist.
Are you tired of feeling like you are alone in your
Definitely
concerns for the
fucking
future of your
fascist.
children? Do you try to speak to community leaders about your concerns and your voice goes unheard? There is power in numbers and the...
Yeah, because fascists want the schools to just be what? They just want the what? It's like the exact opposite of fascist. What the fuck? This is so dumb that he's calling these people fascist. Fuck, I'm set up shit like shit right now. This guy's gonna take fucking... what should I do here? I could get taken out in one fucking go if... Bro, I feel like I have less people than anyone else. Like this person has 2 6s. And I'm just spread out. Not even one of mine is touching. This is such bullshit.
Survival of America by unifying, educating, and empowering parents. And they have a pledge on their website. I pledge to honor the fundamental rights of parents, including but not limited to the right to direct the education, medical care, and moral upbringing of their children. I pledge to advance policies that strengthen parental involvement and decision-making, increase transparency, defend against government overreach, and secure parental rights at all levels of government. So we're going to look at their Twitter account in a sec. But yeah, if you're getting like authoritarian far-right vibes from that, you'd be correct. And also, what I always find interesting about these parental groups is it seems like they don't see their children as even like a unique human being. It's literally just like, I own you. Your child is basically just an extension of yourself, and you must do everything you can to protect them from what you perceive as like terrible things, like, I don't know, learning who Martin Luther King was, because all of this is wrapped up in the fear-mongering about critical race theory, the fear-mongering about bathrooms for trans students, and one thing I'm not going to focus on too much, but of course, what Mums for Liberty do is target school boards. Now, school boards aren't something unique to America. And I don't really know much about how the UK system works. Like, I kind of know people who are involved in my primary school, you know, like friends' parents, but it all seemed pretty like boring. And they didn't really have much of an influence on things that got taught in school or anything. That just seemed to be like a national guideline set out by the government rather than the school boards. But obviously, anyone who's not American, how we know school boards is it literally seems to draw the most insane people possible to rant about these conspiracy theories.
Or the politicians, once you get a power, you will never relinquish it. Do you think that the 4 feet of marble that holds you above high in this chamber will help you from the fate of humanity which you are unleashing? No! It won't! Your children and your children's children will be subjugated!
Like when I was covering the furry bathroom panic, that all stems from a school board thing. And I think what it is with a lot of mums in these areas is that if you grow up in a very patriarchal society as a woman, what is forced down your throat a bit more is your whole goal in life should be to be a mother. So if you become a stay-at-home mum, eventually when the kids are a bit older, maybe all in, you know, primary school, secondary school, you're going to have more time on your hands. But also your education might have ended in high school. Maybe you've never even had a job in your life, because in a lot of Christian communities, I always see this on Reddit, people get married at like 19 years old, right? And in that, I guess people look for community, but it's a toxic blend where you have already a Christian conservatism. Then you have people who maybe haven't developed their critical thinking skills, and you also have people who have dedicated their lives just to being a parent, which is something, you know, my mum did as well. Like, I'm not shaming stay-at-home parents at all. It is nice to have that environment, and it is nice to have a parent who is there for you all the time while your other parent works and stuff. But also, if you don't maybe have many friends, or you don't have many hobbies, or all your friends are actually just mums like you, then it's really hard to break out this way of thinking that your child is just everything. And your whole personality is just mother. It's not mother is a part of your personality. You are just a mother. That is all you are. That is all you will be. And it feels pretty toxic because eventually those kids will be old enough to leave. And that's why I feel like a lot of this is basically trying to make these kids stay under their thumb for a long, long time. And it feels like whenever I read about narcissistic parents on Reddit, which is American-centric, a lot of it stems from actually Christian conservative communities because of their views on either patriarchy, motherhood, what it means to be a parent. Basically means you have complete domination over your children, right? And they make these kids
until they're
stay under their
18,
thumb
yeah.
for a long, long time. And it feels like whenever I read about narcissistic parents on Reddit, which is American-centric, a lot of it stems from actually Christian conservative communities because of their views on either patriarchy, motherhood, what it means to be a parent. Basically means you have complete domination over your children, right? And they should be mini versions of you, not their own humans. But if we just go on Mums for Liberty's Twitter page, even if you got the sense that they were just like some standard conservative group, they are.
Is
like
this
a
person
faction.
gonna fucking take?
And if you see what they're retweeting things like gays against groomers, all about this gay LGBT panic in school.
Fuck.
But they say stuff like this, like we want it to be known that our friends at Mums for Liberty are not anti-LGBT. They are pro-children protection. But pro-child protection is just a dog whistle when conservatives use it. They just don't want their children to learn about things like diversity or things that go against their religion. Other stuff like this, over $18,000 spent per year on each student in Seattle public education. For this indoctrination, gay is slay. Seattle middle schoolers forced to send hate mail to Mums for Liberty. Again, talking about Seattle public schools, something they constantly use. They talk about building of the Red Guard in America, which is language I haven't heard in a while. Like, is it meant to be something about the Cultural Revolution and like the children who formed like these Red Guards? I think it is maybe alluding to that. So that is a weird one. I haven't actually seen much in conservative like rhetoric these days. But the Red Guard of America is being cultivated in our public schools. They're using your money to fund the indoctrination of the youth in America. Enough. And obviously, retweeting people like Christopher Rufo, Chaya Raichik. It firmly is just another fascist organization. But obviously, what they hide behind is I just care about my children. I don't want my child to be indoctrinated in left-wing politics. I don't want my child to be indoctrinated in gender ideology. It's just the children. Let children be children, and once they grow up, well, they can make their own decisions. But as we're seeing right now, it's just an excuse to get your foot in the door, because once they start banning stuff for children, they actually start extending it to high school students, and then they start extending it to university students, and then recently I saw something, I forgot what state it's in, they're trying to now extend it, don't say gay, to the workplace, because it wasn't about children. That was just a convenient excuse they were using to try and get people on side who maybe don't know better, and get these, like, maybe confused.
The drone age has begun in the large-scale military online action game, War Thunder. Experience completely new gameplay by piloting recon and strike drones to hunt.
Use mums or mums who don't have.
Bro, this shit's so fucking. Oh. What was I going to do here? Fuck.
great critical thinking skills. Children be children, and once they grow up, well, they can make their own decisions. But as we're seeing right now, it's just an excuse to get your foot in the door, because once they start banning stuff for children, they actually start extending it to high school students, and then they start extending it to university students. And then recently I saw something, I forgot what state it's in, they're trying to now extend it, don't say gay, to the workplace, because it wasn't about children. That was just a convenient excuse they were using to try and get people on side who maybe don't know better, and get these like maybe confused mums, or mums who don't have great critical thinking skills, who have their entire lives wrapped up in protecting their children, and then the end result is, oh yeah, you just can't ever talk about sexuality in public society, apart from like in your own home, because we've completely banned it, and you can face legal consequences now for doing that. Again, never about the children. But Mums for Liberty is just like one group in like a wider, I guess, history of motherhood and mums being participants in white supremacy and fascism. World War II is an interesting case study, and
World
how
War
women
II.
were used in World War II, and the version of women you saw in different countries. And what people don't often understand is that the war between Germany and the Soviet Union was, for the Germans, like this race war. But also something that was obviously pretty confusing to them is they would fight women as well. There would be women serving in not just, you know, the Soviet military as a whole, as like maybe nurses and medics. There would actually be women soldiers, and there'd be women pilots. There would be women driving tanks. And it was in complete contrast into how women were viewed in Germany. Because what fascism essentially is just an extremist version of patriarchy. Like, not only is there an expectation for women mainly to become mothers, and that's great, it's literally like, that is all you should be. You are just a baby machine for this fascist empire. In this society, that's how motherhood was depicted. The most noble pursuit a woman could do, and what was pretty much forced on her, was to just be a mother. And that was all she should be. And the men should do everything else. And while it's not necessarily the same right now with American conservatives, for most of them, this is the end goal. And part of the reason they want to end no-fault divorce as well is to trap these women even further. To trap them just to be caretakers, just to be mothers to children and looking after their husband. But just a couple of things I want to read quickly about the history of women. So a Guardian article came out recently saying Mums for Liberty is part of the long history of right-wing mothers activism in the US. And I just want to read this and a Vox article to talk about the history of this stuff. So as the historian Michelle Nickerson demonstrates, the period surrounding the Cold War is a useful lens for understanding how mothers' movements became a pillar of American conservatism. Like Mums for Liberty, these groups responded to cultural change by condemning the spread of progressive ideologies through public schools. Fueled by anti-communist panic, they fought for the removal of textbooks, teachers, and administrators they judged to be tainted by progressive ideals. A defining feature of these groups was how they leveraged cultural beliefs surrounding motherhood for political ends. They invoked motherhood to argue that they were uniquely connected to the domestic sphere and child rearing, and therefore uniquely able to speak for the moral interests of parents, families, and children. The specific aims pushed by Mums for Liberty reflect a more troubling thread from history. White mothers' organizations were some of the most committed players in the mid-century project of massive resistance fought to preserve Jim Crow. This segregationist battle was particularly concerned with legal mandates for school desegregation, and one of its battlegrounds remains central to the mission of Mums for Liberty. Textbooks and school curricula. In the South and beyond, mothers' organizations fought to eliminate books and teachings that highlighted white violence or white supremacy. Furthermore, they routinely attempted to remove books from the curriculum that highlighted black contributions to the nation, which, like, history is just absolutely repeating itself there. But a Vox article went into this even further. So this is from 2021, but white women's role in white supremacy explained. So Stephanie Jones-Rogers, a history professor at UC Berkeley and author of the book They Were Her Property, White Women as Slave Owners, told Vox they were co-architects in the system. They were at the table when the system was designed. That remained true after the Civil War, through the birth and the evolution of the Klan, and during the Civil Rights Movement, when white women were some of the most vocal opponents of school integration. White women's investment in white supremacy is older than the US itself, and goes back to the economy of slavery. Though white women have been seen by some historians as passive bystanders to the brutalities of slavery, they were in fact participants, as Joan Rogers explains. Before the Civil War, white women had little economic or political power, with one big exception: they could buy and sell people, and they did so, using enslaved people as a way of building up wealth that would have not simply be transferred to the husband in marriage. Slavery gave white women freedom, autonomy, and agency that they could not exercise in their lives without it, so they deeply invested in it. And after the Civil War, white women didn't simply give up on this system, instead they doubled down. Many, that meant becoming active in the Klan, which at one point had 1.5 million female members. They became especially important once given the right to vote. So I liked what that kind of touched on, that women in America have tended to be seen as also victims of the system, because, you know, it's a patriarchal system that also sees women as lesser than. But at the same time, there's different systems that dehumanize you. So you do have patriarchy, but you also have white supremacy. And in the realms of white supremacy, which you can't really divorce from patriarchy, but at the same time, white women were still seen as better than most other people in the United States, and they did benefit and uphold this system. And just on the subject of things like Palestine and Israel right now, you see this in Israeli propaganda. I made videos where you have like this elevation.
Oh,
of,
it's
Oh,
like,
progressive
Israeli women.
too.
They
They can still suffer discrimination in their own country through patriarchy, but they are still upholding this colonial system, aren't they, by participating in it, even if it isn't completely for their benefit, because they'll never be seen as equals under patriarchy. But in this system, they are still going to be treated better than, you know, a lot of people who live in Israel, and of course the Palestinians. That goes without saying. But one more thing I want to read you was by Phoebe Cohen in 2021 for HuffPost. And it was, I joined a far-right group of mums, what I witnessed was frightening, and they joined a Facebook group, and they joined like an actual meeting, so I thought it was an interesting insight here. Look out for the trigger words, the woman says. She's perched on a chair in front of the room. She's well dressed yet funky with elegant boots. Equality, diversity, inclusion, marginalization. These words are critical race theory. If you see these words in your kid's homework, you need to speak out. I am in a meeting held by a local right-wing mums group. It's an organisation catering to mothers who are bent on protesting at school board meetings to stop supposedly evil critical race theory agenda from being taught in public schools and address other typically conservative concerns. To learn more, I joined the local right-wing Facebook group for mums. Once inside, I found the members were all stripes of Republican, and I was pleasantly surprised to see opinion was not monolithic. Several mums argued against the more far-right posters. One woman posted an objection to children reading To Kill a Mockingbird. Divisive concept, she wrote with a broken heart emoji. Underneath was a screenshot of a direct message from someone who appeared to be a student that read, I'm in English right now, we're currently reading To Kill a Mockingbird. There's a part where Calpurnia brings the kids to church with her, and another black woman is being extremely racist towards Scout and Jem. My teacher was saying it was not racism because white people have a higher power over black people in society and that black people can't be racist. There were several indignant emoji reactions in response to this post. One mum, however, pushed back. Well, the woman at the church complained that Calpurnia had brought white children to a black church, possibly one of the few places black people felt any sense of freedom and safety. It's a little absurd to call the woman racist given the context, and this comment got a couple of likes. So talking about going to the meeting, I listened to the speakers at the meeting while they discussed how to run for, campaign and pressure school boards. Many parents bemoaned how they had to pull their kids from public schools over mask mandates and enroll them in private schools. It was a common story. I got the impression that most of these families had income levels that allowed them to pay thousands in private school fees just because they wanted to take a stand on masks. I was probably the poorest person there. There was a lot of anger directed at teachers. Rat out these teachers, one mother instructed. Find a
What the
lawyer who
fuck
can
did that
challenge
guy
these
just
teachers.
do?
Another
Oh,
woman
he just...
disdainfully noted that teachers don't even know what they're doing half the time. They just pull it off the internet, which is very ironic. A third woman said there is no discipline for teachers outside of taking away their credentials. I raised my hand. What do you say to people who are like, oh, you're going to put bounties on teachers' heads, you're marching outside school board members' homes with guns? I could see several women visibly flinch at the word bounty. One woman said she disliked the term bounty, but she could see the need for monetary compensation for those who turn in teachers that were doing things parents found unacceptable, like teaching To Kill a Mockingbird. There are no repercussions for teachers who break the law, she said. If we have to offer monetary compensation for people to report teachers, I see no problem with that. It's an incentive for people to wake up. Another woman raised her hand. I know we want to change school boards, but elections aren't until 2023. What do we do until then? We can't just sit around and let them attack our kids. We have to do something. I caught a gleam in the woman's eye I didn't like. Was there some flirtation with insurrection being suggested here? What was she saying? Another woman nodded. Listen, we've tried playing nice, but they just dig in their heels and dig in their heels. We have to start becoming not so nice. That is probably just like a little microcosm of like the broader landscape of these mums groups where, you know, going crazy about teaching kids to kill a mockingbird is common, suggesting that you should go harass teachers for doing this and put bounties on their heads for people to harass them because they don't do things you like for your child. And of course, it's all this like very toxic belief in that these women feel like they have some sort of ownership over their children in general. But also it's just a toxic mixture as well of, you know, a lack of critical thinking, often a lack of education, often growing up in very, very conservative communities, and often finding your own community only with like-minded mothers who all have been indoctrinated in this pro-patriarchy view of women's highest role in life is to be a mother. And when you have that together, you get a group of mothers saying that they should probably take violent action against teachers who are trying to like groom or indoctrinate their children because they taught them about To Kill a Mockingbird or read a Martin Luther King speech. And like you were saying there, a lot of these women are very well off because if you can take your child out of public school and stick them in private school because you don't want them to wear a mask in the pandemic, then obviously your means are very high. And maybe you and your husband both work, but if it's a more traditional household, he's the one who works. So like that's what you become concerned with. And like I said, when you don't have as good an education and you're from a certain generation, maybe like older millennial, Gen X and stuff, I think misinformation can spread a lot quicker because people just don't have the critical thinking skills on social media. They didn't grow up with it. And I know from older people in my own family, thankfully, they don't read the wrong stuff, but I could totally see them falling for some of this propaganda. Because they don't know what to think. They get bombarded, and as we saw with things like Brexit and Trump with Cambridge Analytica, sometimes they even get targeted by this stuff to make them feel a certain way. And why Facebook is so toxic is that you have these private groups which no one can see, but can draw in thousands of people to all radicalize each other in this echo chamber. And that's what Mumsnet is to an extent as well, although you can go on that and see that for yourself. And what you're seeing there is a lot of these fascist policies are now being swept in because mums are targeting school boards and either getting people elected who pander to them or getting themselves elected and then literally changing all these things from within. And then, of course, as a voting bloc in conservative states, they're going to vote in the most extreme candidates. Ron DeSantis is essentially the blueprint for this. And now, you know, they're suggesting Don't Say Gay might be extended to the workplace as well. Because it's never about children, but it's a good entry point because it seems on the surface apolitical even. Like, I just want to protect my child. Can't everyone who's a parent relate to that? You just want to protect your child from the scary, big, bad world. And it's all about this constant fear and paranoia, which these people have been indoctrinated in themselves because they are in more closed communities. So they see anything like diversity or teaching about racism as like a threat to their power and a threat to their children. And why propaganda is often so effective is, like I said, most people who are parents can relate to, I guess, the love they have for their child. This love might manifest itself in very toxic ways, but they can relate to the feeling of, I want to protect my child. And just like, you know, with Donald Trump's election in 2016 and Brexit, sometimes there's just a feeling something is wrong in society. And you see it right now, I guess, because most people don't know it, but it's because of capitalism. But, you know, if your rent's increasing, if things are just getting worse around you and worse for you economically, you know something is wrong. And when times are bad economically,
it's much easier to create scapegoats, create, you know, villains of what are making society bad because you can't pinpoint it. So for these mums, it's the teachers, and it's the teachers destroying American society, and we must preserve liberty, because if we don't, it's bad now. It's going to be even worse in like 10 years' time. So we must do something. And I think also, the last thing, for Americans specifically, I think it's all like main character syndrome. Like I made that video about a year ago on the war on Christmas, and someone made a great comment to tie it all back to Kill a Mockingbird. They said most American conservatives are waiting for the Atticus Finch moment, in that they will stand up to the powers that be and make this speech and just become this hero of their own story, right? And it's so true when I watch these school board meetings. Like, these mums really think they're doing something. They really think they're heroes for doing this. They really think they are in their own movie. And all of that together just creates this toxic culture, and the mums are just not okay. And like, how do you even change this? Do people just have to stop being parents to make them like so much less easy to manipulate? I don't know. But anyway, that's it for the video. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. And if you made it this far, thank you for watching.
You deserve the truth. The enemy is at our gates. Their numbers are overwhelming. Any Marine who makes this stand with us will not survive the day. For every moment that we hold the enemy at bay, more innocent people can escape.
This video is brought to you by Mubi, a curated streaming service dedicated to elevating great cinema from all around the globe. Get a whole month free at Mubi.com/mmfish. And of course, by my lovely patrons.
You know, ever since I was young, I always wanted to live with a sense of adventure. So that's why I'm getting into off-grid content. You know, I just love the idea of being self-reliant, self-sufficient. Oh, thanks, babe. Aww. Oh, so thirsty. Small batch frappuccino.
It was truly only a matter of time before the YouTube algorithm sent me down the funnel of off-grid homesteading content. Being from pure Michigan, I love the outdoors. I love camping. I love looking at bugs. I love identifying birds with my dad. I've also been obsessed with tiny houses for a while now, in a kind of morbid fascination type of way. There's something about watching a family of four cram into a mobile bunker while the host giggles about the unpredictable housing market. There are only so many episodes I can watch in a row before I feel like there becomes a moral obligation for the host to mention that the real housing problem is that we don't treat it as a basic human right.
They need to sell their house now so they won't be paying a big house mortgage, a tiny house mortgage, and student loans all at the same time.
But by God, I will watch all 4 hours of you trying to fit your piano and baby crib into one. I'll do it. I've done it. Anyway, all to say, not even my love for the outdoors or yelling at Tiny House Nation could prepare me for the endless abyss of...
Nice phase.
Now, the off-grid grifter is just one variety of off-grid person under the overarching off-grid umbrella. Here's some other categories close to my heart. You got your standard doomsday couple. You got your illegal camping videos, which are very helpful and informative. There's an entire genre of hot girl almost naked in thumbnail video. And the hot girl category actually dovetails into 2 separate off-grid genres. Actual hot girl content and video with hot girl thumbnail, but the actual content has negative sexual vibes. I cannot emphasize enough how many naked women are on these thumbnails. I mean, maybe YouTube just knows me, but they know you too. There are men in the woods reinventing the wheel over and over and over and over again.
I wanted to make a steam-powered car. I probably will do it, but it won't be so much a public thing.
And of course, the classic Sapphics renovating a camper to run away videos. And I'm sure there are many, many, many more. Comment below with your favorite off-grid
Nice
subgenre.
phase.
You can file this video under deconstructing off-grid content, off-grid content. But what makes an off-gridder an
Wait,
off-grid
what the
grifter?
fuck?
Wait. Yes, that makes sense. Yes. What makes an off-gridder an off-grid grifter?
What the fuck?
And I don't even mean that off-grid grifters make money, or that they have money. What makes an off-grid grifter is a lack of transparency about that money. Just compare these folks, who are very upfront about the reality
Damn
of
it.
off-grid.
People with a lot
I
of
wasn't
money,
moving fast
who have
enough.
A lot of acreage in beautiful places, they have brand new vehicles, and you think, what in the world is real? How do these people pay their bills? How can they have all this stuff if what they are is really remote? Well, the chances are they're not really remote.
If you don't have a decent amount of savings to begin with, it can be very challenging. So even though I'm spending less on my lease than I was on my rent, there are all these additional things. So to be honest, I'm working a lot more now than I used to. It was very, very financially stressful.
With this person, who's very vague.
A couple years ago, I got 2 rustic cabins in the woods, and have been living there ever since. And I love them, and I still own them. I'm about 2 months ago, purchased this place. But that being said, I did have my mom co-sign with me.
And just to say it out loud, my inner legal eagle is speaking, I am not accusing anyone of fraud or any other criminal activity. Off-grid grifters can pop up in any of the off-grid subcategories, and they can be hard to spot, like those cell towers disguised as trees, which to me look exactly like the trees from Lego Island. But anyways, how can you spot an off-grid grifter in the wild? Well, lucky for you, I've been able to identify some common characteristics, so you know what to look out for. Of course, the most obvious flag of red is how the off-gridder responds to questions about how they could afford to move off-grid. It takes a chunk of capital to construct a homestead.
50.
It can cost much less than buying a house, which is definitely the reason that many people choose this lifestyle, but it ain't free, and it's usually not cheap.
We found 6 acres just 3.5 miles from downtown Boone, and we're able to create this beautiful place not only for us to live, but for students to live with.
Glossing over what I hope is an obvious ethical question about living with students. There is a large gap between finding 6 acres of land and buying 6 acres of land. Hey, wait a minute. Yeah, how did he?
From the beginning, hired students to help us with all of the work here on the site. We hired a sawyer to come in and create lumber for us that we could use for decking and framing on the various structures that we knew we were going to build. We built this tiny house in my father's driveway. I hired a Appalachian State student to come with us for the summer, and he and I worked to build the tiny house.
The most egregious example of yada yada yadaing over the money is when one rich off-grid YouTuber will go around and document other rich people's architecturally interesting off-grid homes.
I own 400 acres. You know, as a young person coming on the land, I could not believe
Ugh.
that nobody wanted this.
Yeah, I also don't believe that nobody wanted it.
We came on the land, and there was no water, no roads, no bridges. There was nothing, but there were trees. You got to remember, we came on the land, we had absolutely no money. This cost $8,500 to build.
Well, it doesn't sound like you had no money. It sounds like you had at least $8,500. Even if the houses are not architecturally interesting, they'll still go and check it out if they're in the same tax bracket.
I learned a lot of things co-founding Airbnb. Can't be a UFO. Nobody wants a UFO in their backyard. They want something that feels like home.
It's almost like there are all these people who belong to it's called a class, who all happen to have some sort of particular resource in abundance. I'm at a loss. If only there was a name for that. Class or resource. Besides being obscure about how they've paid for their homestead, off-grid grifters are also obscure about the labor that goes into their homestead.
We did almost all the work ourselves. I think if we had had it hired out, we'd probably be spending around $400,000 probably. One of my favorite pieces here at the A-Frame is this painting. It was actually painted by my father. He's a professional impressionist oil painter. He actually helped a lot with this build. He was here with me probably, I would say half the time I was building here, he was helping it.
We did almost all the work ourselves.
So, just to recap, being an off-gridder is all about being self-reliant, which means doing everything by yourself, except when you need some students to work for free or cheap, or when you need specialized laborers like a sawyer, a pipe fitter, or a welder. So you do almost all the work yourself, implying that it's just you and maybe your partner too. But then on YouTube, you show a photo of what is clearly 3 men working, and then in another part of the video, you admit that you're literally a contractor. So you probably have some of your guys help out without even thinking of it as outside help because you own them. And also, you couldn't have done any of this without your dad. You know, self-reliant. Another flavor available in the palette of off-grid
All right.
is when an off-gridder is a little...
I am done. It's